and then they shipped me to Venezuela. I remember traveling to Venezuela, and from San Antonio. I was the only one leaving from San Antonio to go to Venezuela, and they flew me on a red eye. They flew me from San Antonio to LA to pick up my visa by myself, and then they flew me again by myself from LA to Miami on a red eye. And the first missionaries that I had come in contact with, I saw a few in passing at the LA airport. Was by myself for like 16 hours during layovers and flights. And I was like, this is weird, not having a companion with me, you know. So I had Book of Mormons with me, and I took every opportunity I could to share my testimony. I called my parents to make sure they knew where I was and that I was okay. And then I flew to Miami, and I met a few other missionaries there that were all coming from different missions that had been waiting for their visa, and we traveled to Venezuela, and we arrived in Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela, and we went through, you know, customs and security. And at that time, Venezuela wasn't, it was some political unrest. Hugo Chavez was the president, and there was some political unrest there. But for the most part, they didn't mind missionaries coming in. It just took longer to get them there because of the visas. But I remember, you know, they get us to Caracas, and I'm like, I have no idea even where Caracas was. And then they fly us out on this little puddle jumper to Barcelona. And again, going through customs and meeting the president there, President Siderud. Wow. President Siderud was quite a man. He had a voice that you just knew he loved you as soon as he talked to you. And him and Hermana Siderud, they just treated you like they had known you forever, and yet they just barely met us. And I remember having dinner with them and some strange Venezuelan food, and that I would grow to love very much. But it was interesting. That first night, they split us up after we had a kind of a lunch dinner with the president. They split us up, and we went with the APs, and I went with one of the APs, and he took me to a house that we went to share a message with this family, and this family had been investigating the church for a while, and I remember it was Elder Kimball was his name, and he said, Elder Schiss, he's like, as we're talking to this family, he's like, I got a stomach ache, man. I gotta go to the bathroom. Can you take over? And one of the things that was the craziest in Venezuela when I got there was like the Spanish in Venezuela and the Spanish in Texas is completely different. And I was like, I don't even understand these people. Are they speaking Spanish? Like, I am in trouble. And I remember he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Here, take over. And we were teaching about the Book of Mormon. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, all right, we're going to go to Moroni. And we're going to read about why we read the Book of Mormon. And these are the promises. And I shared my testimony in Spanish the best I could. I know I butchered it. I know that it didn't go over real well, but I felt the Spirit there with me, and I understood that, for me personally, it was a faith-building moment, as I could feel that the Spirit was there teaching me and helping me. And come to find out later, Elder Kimball really didn't have a stomach ache. He just wanted to see how I'd react. And afterwards, he's like, all right, you did good. Good job. Now keep it going for the next 2 years. That first night as well, I remember he introduced me to what is famously known as Malta. To put it in layman terms, it's pretty much ground up Wheaties in a bottle. That's what it tastes like. But that first night I was like, what are you feeding me and what are you making me drink? Because I'm going to die. This is not good stuff. And by the end of my mission, I loved it. So go out and try some Malta.
So we flew. The MTC experience might be a little different now, but we were up at about 3:30 in the morning at the MTC to get to Salt Lake Airport. When I left, it was 2 weeks after 9/11. So I was in the MTC for 9/11, which was an interesting experience. But so they had just changed all airport regulations. So my parents had planned on bringing my family up. My mom's a flight attendant and flies for free, so they were going to come up and send me off. And so we got the announcement that now families were encouraged not to go to the airport to meet us. So they told us to call our parent, gave us like 2 minutes on the MTC phones, and but my mom and dad said they were coming anyways, and since my mom's a flight attendant, she went with us to the gate and sent us off. And we had a connection in Dallas, and we're a little late, and then a connection in Miami. Our flight was a little late, so we ended up taking off a little later than normal. So we landed in Venezuela late night, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So my mission president, was there with his wife and the APs. And one of the APs was actually a buddy of mine that I grew up with in Salt Lake. So that was really cool, kind of calming experience, because that flight from Miami to Venezuela was, that was a little rough. Things get really real on that flight. But got to see a buddy, and we all hopped in kind of separate taxis to go back, and we stayed at the office elder's apartment that night. But so I didn't get to see much going in, because it was late at night. So I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing to be able to kind of not see what I was going into. But got to the apartment, and once you get to a South American apartment, you kind of realize, oh, it's a little different, here. But it was fun, and office elders were great. But then you wake up in the morning and kind of look out. They lived on like the 17th floor of an apartment building. And you kind of look out and see Maracaibo, and you were like, oh, wow, So, yeah, that day we did a training in the mission office pretty much all day, and kind of went over mission rules and regulations, and did the whole, went and got a debit card, or, not even a debit card. We had ATM cards back in the day and would take out money. That's how we got our funds. So we went and got our debit card and got mission rules and regulations and found out our areas. But the one thing that struck me about that first day, just, nervousness. I don't know if I was scared so much, but my mission president, who's now 70, Elder Martino, James B. Martino, my mission president, was just so animated and happy we were there, and just so engaged in the work. It kind of almost set you at ease to, get you excited to go to work. And so we spent that day and went out that night with office elders to kind of do a little investigate, find investigators. But then the next day, went into our first areas. So I stayed in the city in Maracaibo. I had some buddies that went kind of all over into the mountains, hours and hours away. So I was pretty lucky that I was only about a 10-minute taxi ride away from the mission office for my first area. But that first day, getting investigators and getting to the apartment was a little eye-opening. A little eye-opening. You realize really quick you weren't in, Salt Lake City or Phoenix anymore. Broken glass shards on the top of fences to keep people out of yards, and just stray dogs everywhere, and it was hot. Venezuela's Phoenix heat with Florida humidity, so you get used to that really fast. But my trainer, we went to work. That's the best thing you can do as a new missionary, is just get to work and you forget about everything else. So.